and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. And this is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It's a United Nations plan. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century.
Battle lines for a new world order based on power are being drawn right now. So yes, Europe must fight for its place in the world, in which many major powers are either ambivalent or openly hostile to Europe, a world of imperial ambitions and imperial wars, a world in which dependencies are ruthlessly weaponized. And it is for all these reasons that a new Europe must emerge.
Free speech isn't a free fall in Europe. There are two anti-free speech movements that have coalesced. One is in Europe, where it has laid waste to free speech. Germany, France, England. Free speech has been eviscerated. And also places like Canada. The U.S. anti-free speech movement began in higher education, then metastasized throughout the government. But this has all reached our shores now. The Berlin World Forum followed the remarks of Vice President Vance on free speech, and the EU was red hot. They gathered in Berlin, and it was the most anti-free speech gathering I've ever been part of. There's only two of us from the free speech community. And they are committed. And, you know, Hillary Clinton was there, and she really fueled the anger. I mean, she, when Twitter was purchased by Elon Musk, she called on the EU to use the infamous Digital Services Act, which is one of the most anti-free speech pieces of legislation in decades. And she called upon the EU to use the DSA to force the censorship of American citizens, force people like Musk to censor. It's an extraordinary act by someone who was once a presidential candidate in the United States. But they are committed to it. And after the World Forum, they further globalized this effort, and they are threatening companies like X with ruinous fines unless they resume censoring American citizens.
Looking at Western Europe, I would say there are basically three plausible futures on offer. Number one is Islamic Sharia law, and if you're a woman, you get to wear a burqa. Number two is totalitarian AI a la China, where the computers track you in everything you do all the time, and that's kind of creepy, sort of the Eye of Sauron, to use the Lord of the Rings reference, right, watching you at all times. And then the third one is hyper-environmentalism, where you drive an e-scooter and you recycle. And even though I'm not a radical environmentalist, I think if those are the three choices, you can understand why the Green Movement's winning, because those are the three visions of the future we have. Right. And the challenge on the conservative or libertarian side is to offer something that's a picture of the future that's different from these two very dystopian and one somewhat stagnant one.
Do you understand that Palantir is trying to get contracts that Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, and then Google have? So Palantir's gone from a few percent of the contracts, what, 5, 6, 7%? The reason you know about it is because the corporate media wants you to know about it, because they want it blocked from contracts. Fine, block it from contracts. The issue is that Larry Ellison just took over TikTok, and he's a former IDF guy.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link.
Peter Thiel's like, I want to have a counter to watch the Antichrist. The Antichrist system's coming in. They go, oh, you're the Antichrist because you said we need to be worried about the Antichrist.
You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools. Wouldn't that be the irony of history, would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival? I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
The entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted. Time before Christ, there were many forerunners to Christ, and the time after Christ, there will be many forerunners of the Antichrist. So in some sense, it's a type. So Nero was a type of the Antichrist, or maybe Napoleon was a type of the Antichrist. And it's sort of it's someone who aspires for world domination, to create, creation of this sort of one world state. In some ways, Alexander the Great was sort of a pre-Christ prototype of the Antichrist. It's sort of very parallel to Christ. They both die at 33. Alexander conquers the world. Christ saves it. So sort of a compare and contrast. How does a sort of world takeover actually happen? And it's kind of not a deus ex machina, but like a daemonium ex machina. It's like the Antichrist just gives these hypnotic speeches where nobody can remember a word, and then sort of just swindles people's souls out of them, and they submit to this totalitarian state or something like this. And I think if we were to speculate on how to solve that plot hole, we have an answer in the world after 1945. That in 1900, early 20th century, people were not yet scared of apocalyptic weapons. They could not imagine, anything of the scale that we'd have by the second half of the 20th century. And so the Antichrist takes over by talking about Armageddon.
Does the Antichrist say we need to worry about the Antichrist? I'm not even defending Peter Thiel. I'm simply saying, why do you only know about Alex Karp and Palantir when the main moves are in Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon? Bill Gates appointed major stakeholder of global digital ID system through the UN with China, creating the standardized system. Here's the UN, go read it. United Nations Pact for the Future, Global Digital Compact, Declaration of Future Generations. This is the whole plan written by the banksters for total control. This is going in, and I'll tell you, Palantir ain't anywhere here.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's two parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact. And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID This is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared, have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared, because this is what's coming.
Palantir goes and sells governments, cities, whatever. Oh, we'll help you track for crime and integrate your systems. They all want all the stuff integrated because that's what AI wants. The point is, it's the AI. And there's all these systems.
Vietnam has closed 86 million bank accounts. They have frozen them, seized the assets, but they've closed the accounts. And that's 43% of all the accounts. There's around 200 million in Vietnam. Really?
The United Kingdom just announced something that should send a chill down every Canadian spine. From now on, every worker will need a government-issued digital ID to get a job.
We've now got the government pushing the Brit card, and they're now saying they're going to make it mandatory. So, i.e., if you don't take the digital ID, you won't be able to access any government services or pensions or healthcare. So basically making you an unperson. Doesn't this sound like the way that the unvaccinated were treated during the pandemic?
Right, imagine what they'll do is they'll introduce this digital ID and they're like, it's going to be good migration, it's going to be helpful, convenient, it's going to be convenient and safe. Then there'll be some sort of crisis like a pandemic or a war or whatever. They go, right, unless you've got the digital ID card, you can't access these resources or attend to these facilities or whatever it'll be. And then it will never go back to normal. Same as it never quite went back to normal after 9/11, never quite went back to normal after COVID, never quite went back to normal after 2008. They slowly escalate the tensions, legitimize the authority until you don't notice that you're not free anymore. You're not free. You're not able to be who you really are.
Know why you know about it. Use that education to be aware of it all.
Turnkey totalitarianism. They are putting in place all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before. It's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. None of them have been able to do it. They didn't have the technological capacity. Today, the mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide. Within 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low-orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. Every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates.